Good morning, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Pro in HD video discussion, blog, look, whatever you want to call it, at Tropical Storm Emily down here in the Gulf of Mexico, forming in the overnight hours into the early morning hours of today, Monday, the 31st, the last day of July 2017, as of the 8 a.m. advisory, and this is when it was upgraded to a tropical storm, by the way. Top winds were 45 miles per hour. The pressure was 1,006 millibars, and it was moving east at around 8 miles per hour. If we look at the track map from the National Hurricane Center, we can see that it'll be onshore this afternoon in the Tampa Bay vicinity, and then starting more of a northeast turn after that, with the center forecast to go out into the Atlantic, assuming it survives its trek over land, and then it might be a trackable feature over the western Atlantic for the next few days. The early morning hours, visible satellite loop. Let me refresh this to make sure we have the latest images. Hopefully this will load. Shows a fairly well-defined system, despite the fact that it is embedded within an area of fairly high wind shear, strong upper-level winds cutting across the area. But right in here, just enough of a relaxation to get a pulsing up of the energy over this very warm water, and a very well-defined circulation right in here. And there you go, Tropical Storm Emily. You can never trust these features, these cold fronts that, hey, they bring nice conditions up here, cooler temperatures, lower dew points, even extending down into northern Florida. But this is a focusing area for energy to converge. We call that a convergent zone in the atmosphere. In fact, you can see that very well right here on this particular product. This is from the University of Wisconsin Cooperative Institute for Meteorological Satellite Studies, and what this shows us is spin or energy in the atmosphere, and you can see that frontal system very well defined right here, and at the tail end of it, which is often the case, especially as we get into the heart of the hurricane season, and we're heading in that direction. It's almost August. Sometimes you get development, and in this case, that happened with Emily, and that happened over very warm water temperatures. This is the Gulf of Mexico, actual sea surface temperatures, Emily forming in this region, and this green area in here indicating water temperatures in the mid-80s, so 30 degrees Celsius, or about 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Very, very warm water, lots of latent heat available, a lot of energy for this to tap into. So it's not surprising at all that this happened. The National Hurricane Center was on top of it for the last couple of days that this could potentially develop. It was a low chance, but that's not the same as no chance. You got to remember that. Looking out into the Atlantic, if this survives, it'll have very warm water temperatures to work with in the western Atlantic as well, but we can worry about that later on. Again, looking at the upper level winds, I talked about that a moment ago. I want to zoom in and kind of show you what's what. Emily located right in here, and the upper level winds at the 100 to 250 millibar level, which is way up high in the atmosphere, way above the top of the storm. Fairly light, maybe 10 knots or so, 5 to 10 knots, 20 knots at the most, which is not very conducive, but it's not very destructive either. It's kind of right in the middle, and so Emily tapping into that. And you can see too on this particular satellite product, this dark color right here, that's very dry air just to the north of where Emily is, but that line of demarcation, Emily to the south of that, taking advantage of a moister, that is moist with an ER, a moister, let's just call it a more moist air mass and environment to develop. So you only need evidently a small area for something to develop. You remember Umberto in 2007, that developed very quickly in the northwest Gulf of Mexico, and these small systems can spin up very quickly. This gives you a wider perspective as to what's going on with the radar. Most of South Florida here, south of the I-4 corridor, under fairly heavy rain. Part of this is from the front that's still draped across the area, and then, of course, part of it due to Tropical Storm Emily up here about to impact the Tampa Bay area and points south, Bradenton Beach, Sarasota, Fort Myers, etc. Looking at a close-up animation, and you can see as it moves in, there's Sarasota right there, and Tampa Bay and vicinity up here. So moving in just south of due east, and then it should turn the corner, maybe moving off near Melbourne. And you can track all of this, of course, in Hurricane Pro in HD with different products to see what's happening as Emily moves across the state. I wanted to show you this. Brian McNulty from down in Florida at Miami, at the University of Miami, posting this particular radar. Got to get it right, Mark. Radar animation, and it shows you a really good detail of the storm as it moves in, just about making landfall now. Right here, is that Anclote Key? I should know all of these by heart by now. The southern part of Tampa Bay, we'll call it. And so by 11 o'clock Eastern time, this should be, which is coming up here in about 20 minutes, just about making landfall. And then it'll move across Florida, and we'll see what it does in the Atlantic. By the way, if you want to follow Brian on Twitter, he has these amazing radar loops, long radar loops, when there's a storm active. So follow him. You see his screen name there, his handle, and you can follow those radar loops yourself. All right, well, that is it from me for today. You know, if you're down in Florida, keep an eye on Emily. The main thing is heavy rain if you're traveling through those corridors, I-75, I-4, at least parts of it, and then certainly I-95 and the Florida Turnpike. Just slow down, because those tropical downpours are nasty. I've driven through enough of them in my time to tell you, and if you live down there, you know how they are, but, you know, it might have been a while. Or maybe you're on vacation, or you know somebody who's traveling through the area. Just tell them to please be careful. A tropical storm is moving through the area. All right, again, that's it from me for today. I am Mark Sudduth for HurricaneTrack.com. That's my website. And, of course, for Hurricane Pro and HD, I'll have another update for you tomorrow.